Hi Judy. You're not a stranger, that's for sure. Good evening, Wendy. Hope everybody's okay and had a good weekend. Yeah, all good here. Hope you're all good. Derek, good evening to you, sir. Getting poised, getting ready. Da 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 da. Judy, yes, thanks. Wendy, are you? Yeah, all good. It says 5 are watching, only 3 talking. So there's 2 people on the side being quiet. Come and say hi if you don't mind. It'd be great. Don't worry if you don't want to. Oh, a message. Excuse me 1 minute. A vital message regarding the railway. Sorted. Okay. Where are we, Judy? I only spent 2 hours trying to re-establish contact. Judy, good Lord, that is such a long time. Where are we? We're a little bit low on the mark tonight. My computer span decided Patreon was nonsense. Okay. Well, it's not nonsense, that's for sure. Well done for getting here, Judy. Yeah, I got to agree with Wendy. Well done for persevering and keeping with it. It's really good. We're a few minutes off, aren't we? Yeah, still a bit early. I'm sure there'll still be other people to join in. Although I was a bit late advertising it today, but most people who are regular know that I do a stream on a Monday anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I hope. It says there are 7 watching now. So maybe we'll start getting going in a minute. Colin, good evening to you, sir. How's France and how are you staying safe, I'm sure? Hope Paris is looking after you. I'm getting very tired very quickly. I'm sitting in a lot of clothing. It's quite chilly outside. And I got my radiator just turned on, so I'm sort of slightly going to sleep. Hopefully I won't. Hopefully it'll be fine. Interesting. Oh, good. Well, that's the main thing. Let us hope so. Is it? How long do you have to wait for the absolute reply, Colin? I've just seen some stuff to suggest that Dover's gone up to about 96 people per 100,000, and Folkestone and Hythe have gone up to about 71, 72. So we're climbing, it seems. Teresa, good evening to you, and Keith, good evening to you. Okay. Well, it's not so long to wait, I'm sure. As long as the news is the right news, of course. Frustrating if it's not. Okay. Now then, I need to turn some lighting up, I think. Just bear with me. Make that a little stronger, then you can see what I'm painting. The same on this side. I think I turned them down for another reason earlier. There we are. That's just brought up the lighting, and so you can see what the heck is being painted. It does at the moment, doesn't it? All patrons online. Well, that's fine. That's everybody else misses out. Or they got better things to do. Right, okay, let's get started. Now then, there's quite a high horizon line on this. Luke, good evening to you. Glad you could make it, mate. And I'm going to mark, I thought I had a rule, but I haven't. Well, certainly I can't see one. Now I've got everything else in here except what I actually do need sometimes. This is not a rule, but this will be the next bit. Oh no, there's one there. Thought I did have one. There we are. So I could say this is this is just giving you a rule of thumb. This is an 8-inch high panel. So I'm looking at the picture as you are, and I'm thinking that it's a 2/3, 1/3 split. So, sorry, I know you haven't. Haven't what? Hello there, Paul. Oh no, I haven't. You haven't what? What haven't you done? Okay, got you, Luke. Yep. But I'm not sure what your nan's saying. Since you've just adjusted the light, do you have any suggestions for what lighting I should have when drawing painting? Yes, that's a very, very good point. I will talk about that as we go forward. Now then, I'm just doing a very, very rough calculation, and my maths is not good, but it's about 2.75 off the top. So let's just put a quick mark down, and this is just an easy way of doing it. One there, one up this end, something like that, and then let's run my stick along. Excuse the back of my head for a moment, and let's just give myself a straight line would be really good at this point. Now that is a very rough line through as a horizon line, and my Facebook Patreon page has been suspended again, and I haven't even done anything. It's ridiculous. I can't see how it can be suspended. I will ask a few people to see what I can find out. I can't see that that is right. Something that's not been set maybe. I can't understand why it's been suspended. Not unless you're a black marketeer that we don't know about and they're caught up with you. I haven't got anything better to do. I'm not sure what that's all about, Sue, but I'm sure you'll enlighten me when I see you next. Alright, now this I put in as the horizon line. I am looking at it again, and I'm thinking that's possibly too high. I'm going to use that same line. Just going to put the old straight edge on. I'm going to come the length or the width of that piece of wood just between the two. Oh, there we go. I quite like that. Now, that's not a bad plan anyway. Let's wipe most of this away because the picture that you're looking at has a vanishing point of about there. A little bit of perspective coming into play with this picture immediately, and that is that the banks of the river are not in line. They're not level. And that's because I am standing, my eyesight is below the two tops of the banks. They're much higher as they go away. So what we have is a slight incline up this way. And I'm just going to draw, I'm using a rigger, I'm using a bit of spirit and a little bit of zested and liquid, just to give me a thin line. So I'm going to put a very, very shallow mark there as the top of the bank going off on one side. On this side, we have a greater degree. We have another angle up here. So I'm going to make that a little more noticeable as that comes down to that very point there. Nicely, this whole thing is off center. Now I made the photograph as a normal photograph, and so I've cropped it down to make these sort of areas very noticeable. Off to one side, and I've got this nice bit here. So that's pretty much our perspective. So our lines go up and away. Now then, everything else comes down from this point. So we've got the bank here, and we have another perspective line. We can put our an angle on by using almost a straight out with our arm, and as I'm doing now, as I'm measuring the angle from the top of where that is about there, and laying it along and putting it down to about there. So I know that roughly speaking my bank goes up there in a series of curves, but roughly speaking it's like that. And you get a little bit of a top round this one here, and then that comes down at a shallow angle that way. I'll put my teeth in a minute and I can talk to you properly. Now I'm just looking at that, and I'm thinking that this actually is not that much higher. I think this is almost on the flat. I'm going to change that, get rid of that, and come back down to a level, almost a level there. This one will remain going up and away. I quite like the way that's doing. So we're looking at the first part of this, and I'm going to bring that in, and then we've got a steep part of the bank somewhere about here, which comes in like that and comes out into the river. Now, I haven't actually told you where we are, what we're doing. John, good evening to you. I keep missing the chat. Sorry, guys. Facebook keeps saying I've broken community rules. I can't. Well, you've got to stop selling all that stuff online that you shouldn't. That black market stuff, Teresa. I'm sorry. It's just that they're not going to be happy about that. So you're going to have to stop that, and then maybe you'll be okay. We'll talk about it. I'll give you a call. Give me a call, and we'll have a chat about it. If anyone else knows why that could be happening, Teresa, for Teresa's Facebook thing, then let us know or get in touch. And John, hi everyone. All of Facebook. All of Facebook? Yeah, okay. Hey John, good evening. Patreon is the only thing I use Facebook for. Yeah, we need you on there. We need it for that. We're going to try to get to the bottom of that, Teresa. Very strange, so I hope you're soon reinstated. Wendy, hi. Sorry to hear that, Teresa. have you any idea what post they didn't like? You're not actually posting are you, Teresa? You're not actually posting anything on your feed. You're just watching, joining the our Patreon feed. Is that correct? Just going to bring that down there like so. And I'm just drawing as I'm chatting for a little bit. There are one or two different shapes into the bank here, and I just want to try and establish those. And this big drop on this one. Oh, I thought I got rid of all those notifications. I don't know what that was. Sorry about that. This one juts right out into the water. Nice big curvature to it through here. It comes around the bottom and goes away up behind me. And this nice great big buoy in the foreground. I'm just going to suggest where I want that sitting. And I'm going to leave it sort of like that. It gives me a nice area of the underneath. Nice little hoop on top. Probably put that in the center would be better. Then we got a couple of nice markers. We got these couple of posts here. There's one which I believe is a mast of a vessel, and that comes up, say, there. I'm just going to stick that in. And then we got these two posts. These are quite large, quite chunky piles, and one is a little straighter, about there, and they have their reflections in the water coming down here like so, which works very, very nicely. And then we have the hills. Now there are two. There is a smaller one that comes up through here, and there are loads of marshes through here. It's a really beautiful place, and I better tell you where we are. I keep saying I'm going to tell you where we are. It's a place called Morston Quay, which is in North Norfolk, and it's a tremendously beautiful area, it's got to be said. And behind, in the distance here, on this upper hill section that I'm just sketching in now, is the area and the church of Blakeney. Blakeney is a well-known destination for this coastline on the North Norfolk coast, and so we're going to put that in. It may be a little too big. I think that's a little too large. I'm going to come in and adjust my drawing, take that down a tad, and nothing's been set in stone yet, so we can make all these changes, which is really good fun to do. Just get it sorted out, get it really so you can then pursue it. There's some other building there, one or two other bits and pieces through there. And then of course we have our sun. Now the point is that I'm a little bit out in my drawing. I can see it very clearly. And that is, I need that. I need my sun. So let's put our sun in about here. I'm just going to put this silly little circle, which will have no more relevance than telling me where the sun is. Now I can come out of there like so, and the hillside is coming down a ways, a little bit of building, and then that one there, and then we come across up to where the church is. Now we can put the church back in, and it's a little different in position to where it was before, like so, a little bit higher on this side, and then that can all come cascading back down again to disappear out of the picture. And what we've now got to do is, I'm going to pull the drawing up a little bit more so I can see it, and so I can see all the boating activity. Now I'm not going to be able to do too many boats. I mean, there are a lot of boats in here, and we will put as many in as possible. I'm just going to be literally painting in the real detail of, the real presence of those that are needed. Now that I'm going to represent as the mud area to the other bank that you can't really see too much, but it does need to be there, and you'll see why later. So I'm just going to put in, just going to see where boats are lining up. Now this one possibly, where are we? I'm just checking that because there's a bank there and that comes round, so these come there. It's going to be tight getting that in, but I'm going to put it in there anyway, and that comes out into the water. And up here you can just about see a boat on its side. Now this is a big old wrecker. This is just an abandoned old vessel that lays in the marsh area, and you wouldn't think that with the depth of this bank that it would be a marsh area, and I can assure you the tide comes way up, and it takes out, I mean, this comes down, all this water that's coming through here, and you're seeing quite a bit of, you're seeing about halfway at the moment, and it travels in and out very, very fast, and it comes down to a mere trickle. All of those boats you see at the moment will be on their side or at an angle very, very shortly. They're not going to be sort of floating around for too long. Just trying to see the angle of a couple of these boats. I'm going to put one in here just to start with, just to get an angle like so. Let that nestle in there. There are a couple of other vessels to one side of it, and they're already probably on the mud, so that's probably already on an angle, that one. There is a much larger vessel. It's actually the same size as this one, but it is only a dinghy. So we're going to put this dinghy in here, because I'm going to drop it a little bit. I'm going to therefore give it a little bit more size than it has in the photo, because I brought it a little closer to me. So like so. And drop that stern down, and there's a little less, so we got that bit there. That's important because that will give us a beautiful shadow or reflection in the water, and that crisp little light under the back end there will work very, very well for us. And so I'm just going to bring that into there and out like so. Something like that. We can alter our drawing should we feel the need to, but we've also got a lovely area very similarly on this boat, and we've got that much coming of the reflection and the top end there. I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing here. I've got the bow of this one, and I need to make it a little bigger, I think, so that then works there. And I might even bring that out just a little bit more. I can bring that down there. Nothing, as I say, is set in stone, and we have all the chances in the world to change anything that we feel we need to. I'm just trying to plot the picture so we can move forward. Now, lots of little vessels. There are a load of yachts through the back here. I am not going to try and paint each one. There's actually no need to. There is just a generalized shape, and if you get the salient points in about the boat, then the rest of it really and truly will paint itself, and the viewer's brain, your brain, will fill in all the dots for me on the whole thing. I'm going to put in, sorry about that, I'm going to put in a little more drawing on the little, that's a little bit too wet, too much oil in there. Be careful how much zest it, especially the fine zest it, which will just be like very, very fluidic and not necessarily what you need. I'll put another one there and another vessel behind that one, like so. So I've got two vessels laying in up the top there. That one there, it's got a little bit of a reflection in the water. So it's all about the drawing. Chat is covering the source photo. Say it again. The chat is covering the source photo. Ah, is it? Sorry, Keith. I wasn't aware of that, mate. I don't know how to change that. Are you looking on your telly or are you looking on a computer? Ben, good evening to you. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm going to have to go back and check some of this and see what's going on. I've just been happy painting away. Oh, Ben, if you any ideas of what's happening to Teresa's Facebook membership, I'd love to know, because she's really frustrated over it, and she's not actually, to my knowledge, doing anything wrong other than just trying to be part of the Patreon community page. Teresa, yes, I've commented so far and uploaded a couple of photos. Apart from Patreon, you have posted anything on your own Facebook page or updated your status details? Does anyone else have the Patreon sign obscuring part of the source photo? Ah, yes. Okay, and now I understand what you're all on about. So let me just play around for a couple of seconds and just put that to there, and let me do this and tell me if we are, forgive me, just a few little gremlins in the system. Let's get onto that and pull that out a bit. Pull that out a bit. In fact, if I pull that to there, then you have more of the palette showing. How's that? Is that better? Is that better, guys? Tell me if that's better. I hope it is. If it's not, you'll have to let me know it's not. It looks a bit better. There. Okay, Teresa, if you're watching that, Ben is very, very tech savvy. He's helped me out no end when it's come to the teething troubles with these streams and stuff that we've been doing, my cameras and all the rest of it. So I would let you two get in touch with each other whichever way you wish to, and I would see what Ben can help you with, Teresa, and hopefully sort out the issue for you, or at least put you on the right path towards it. Okay, that's good. Yes, it's a little difficult. I should have seen it. It's because I've got a longer picture on here tonight and much more of a letterbox type affair, more landscape, so it's enabled me to give you a little bit more on what we're doing here. I should have seen it, and I do apologise I never spotted that. Never mind, we'll get there in the end. Okay, lots of little vessels. I'm just going to tap in. Look at that. Tap, 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 tap. Boats. Loads of boats. And they're all going to have loads of lovely masts all sitting there at the moment. Of course, once the tide's out, they'll all be sitting at angles, but at the moment they're all sitting upright. Very good idea to tell you that there's still enough water keeping them afloat. This one has a very tall one, which I'm going to put right up in here, and I will take that down to there. I may adjust that. Look at that lovely wavy line. You lot have all put me off having to move all my stuff. Now, one good thing that I would normally do, I've got a mole stick, which I have a smaller one for when I'm out doing my plein air. It's not in here with me, that's my studio one. And what I would normally do is, like a lot of us when we're out plein air, we've got a big straight edge to do, and we just can come down and literally get our nice straight line down like so. Take off the excess paint and we can carry on. Now we have our mast, but that is just one little thing. Now I will get back. Trevor, good evening to you, sir. Why will it be fine till I start painting? What's going to happen now? Tell me, Keith, what have I missed? Cheers, Ben. Colin, I will send you some links, but basically you need to have, if you can, a little LED. Now a small LED is fine, but if you can spend maybe a little bit more and have an LED panel, and it's got up and down lights, and you can make it warm and cool, and that is very, if you got it at sort of 55 to 6500 Kelvin, then that is the one that we all associate with daylight, and that's the best to have. So one that can go to warm when you need it, but certainly you normally use it purely on the 65 or 5500. Right, okay. So lots of little gremlins in the mix tonight. I do apologise. So I'm going to start looking now at the whole thing, and there may be one or two adjustments, and the one that I've absolutely forgotten is to complete this back hill here. I got as far as the sun and didn't go any further. So I'm just going to bring that up a little bit, and it's pretty much just some woodland and timbers. Now you can see the height of these as that comes through. It comes down, 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 skimming those. There's a little height adjustment down on this side, but it sort of goes down behind the bank about there. And there's a little stand of stuff up through there. And yeah, let's take that up through there. So what I need to do is just to raise those piles just a little higher. And this one too just turns away a little bit there. Just bring that down through there like so. And then we're pretty much on it at that point. And as I say, we've got that little boat that you can just see. If you come back up the bank, you can see a lot more of that. And as you walk round the estuaries, you can do. Now, all the boats here have got two ways in and out. They can, the up further, you've got around the corner and up around that point there, you've got Blakeney. So this will allow boats to come out to sea through Morston via Blakeney, or they can go out through Blakeney to Blakeney Point and go out to sea that way. Either way, it's quite a trek. It's not a 5-minute trip. And of course, way out on Blakeney Point, you've got all the seals and all the regular sea trips out to see them. Anyway, right, I digress. Let me start looking at this. I've used a medium canvas tonight because, or medium coloured. I'm using MDF board, and this is a piece of 3mm. I normally use 2.4. This is an older one that I've had around for a long time. So I've gone from the 3 to the 2.4mm. It's a slightly better finished board. And to that I've given it 3 coats of a gesso. Now the gesso is standard acrylic gesso for those who are not familiar. What happens is that I give 2 white coats and then I give a coloured coat. And you can see here where I've sanded it back a little bit at the end. You can just see where some of the higher points of the previous layers have just exposed the white again. Not a problem. This is just a balanced mid-tone colour that will give me instant look at lights and darks. We can see the darks because you can see my drawing. If I was to draw in a mid-tone matching this, you would have hard to see the drawing. Now I'm going to start putting my lights on, and what I've got to turn around and say, when you're doing something like this, you really do have to understand that you have to set your lights and darks up very, very early. So if you let's just pick a nice brush, one that is clean would help. And to that end, the lightest mark I can make on my painting is got to be my sun. And I'm going to use a little bit of white and a little bit of lemon, and maybe just a tap of the red just to take it off the pure yellow. I'm going to slap that right there, because that tells me from the get-go that if I want anything, that is the brightest colour I can possibly mix right now without trying too hard. I think that is going to be where we are. Might be able to get it a little brighter with some pure white in the middle, but essentially there we are. And here we've got the edge of that, and let's take that lovely reflection down. Now I am not going to make this reflection as big and bold as the one in the photo. That is more akin to the problems with lens and lens flare. It just can't get that sort of information. But already you can see I've got my brightest marks established on my painting. And if I want something brighter, then I've got to change the colours of the sun. Well, the sun and that are the brightest points. So as long as I establish those, I'm fine to go ahead. Everything else has got to come away and get proportionately darker as we continue. Right. Yeah, I had a brand new desk I made here a few weeks ago. It's already covered in stains and stuff. I do need to get a grip of my messy painting methods sometimes. Right, I'm just going to suggest down here that colour. It's probably a little loud, so let's come in with a little touch in that red. Now that red was predominantly magenta, a little bit of cad red, and a little bit of cad yellow deep, but to that I've now mixed a little bit of blue. Now that is probably a better match for that area. I can change it. Nothing is set in stone. So let's come in, maybe tap a white into that, bit more red, bit more magenta, tap a cobalt blue, and let's just carry on playing around with this lovely dirty salmon colour just for a short while. Okay, just see where that's got to go. It's got to be a little bluer, and a little bit of cobalt, a little bit of white into there, a little bit of cobalt, just to give that a bluish influence at the base. Might even bring a bit of ultramarine blue in there, which is a warm blue, which will work nicely with the magenta. But I was trying to make it dirtier and not so violety. I think that does work just a shade better. Just to tap that in. Right, so give that a lovely soft blend. Now that's probably the only place that really needs to be, because it would all be like that if this was all this level, but it's not. We've got the hill, so it's going up in the stratosphere so, or the the light is lifting. And it's an amazing morning, this one. Just could not have got it better. Now I want to put in a little bit of cobalt blue on its own, tap of the green, the cobalt green, quite a bit of white. See where that goes at the moment. Just checking it. I think there's too much white in there. I'm going to come back with blue and the green and see how that looks. I'm going to take a lot of it off. I just want to have an influence across the top of this canvas. And just literally, I should be using a bigger brush if I'm honest with you. But I'm not, because this is the one I picked up. So, and I'll leave that like that. There's just an influence at the top of the page. They're not as messy as that painter who should remain, namely the one who refers to Happy Little Clouds. Well, I don't know. I don't watch his stuff, so is he actually messier than me? I find that hard to believe. Although I do... Stop it. I do know somebody who is quite messy. Don't we, Judy? Anyway, now I'm going to use a bigger brush, or I'll be here all night. Using a nice new soft filbert, and I'm going to start looking at putting a little bit of white into some of these. Don't want too white, because I want it to be really a strong colour. And I can mute it if I want to further in, and it does get a little cooler and a little lighter as it goes up to meet that blue. So let's put that in. Let's see where we are. I'm not using anything that's so strong that it can't be altered. Okay. I'm just going to play around with that, and I can blend any part of this later on. I just want to get down, and I'm going over that blue that you saw me put on. I said I just wanted it as an influence. I didn't want it to be absolutely there, just as an influence. A bit more yellow, a little bit of lemon. Just coming with a bit of white. I don't want to get it too light and too sort of wishy. I would like the strength in there, so I may come back with some orange and yellow in this mix. Just bring that through a bit stronger. I'm tempted to put a bit more bit more movement in it with some liquid. Use it very sparingly. I'm just going to bring that down through there. Just help me make the paint move a little more than it was. So down through there like so. I don't normally do tons and tons of blending, but in this instance there is a very good chance that I will. Bring a bit more orangey yellow through here. A little bit more red this way. so. And keep some of these colours to hand. Do not be rubbing them off straight away because you're going to need them in the water. So try and preserve the mixes that you've made by using various parts of your palette in an orderly fashion to preserve them and keep them going. Just going to come over the top, just skirting that, scratching that yellow in, deeper yellow, because I am actually going to come in with a more lemon mix over the top as we come down here towards the sun. So a bit more lemon and into that, and so some of one shows through and predominantly the lemon wins, but it's just an influence of the two colours working together. Okay, gets paler again as it goes up to the top there, as the morning light is giving way to the night light. Just take that off and blend the two together. Carefully don't go too mad because you will end up with green, and that's not necessarily what you want. Just going to come in, blend these two areas together and look at our mixes overall, and we can build our sky, continue to build our sky on. Okay. Now generally I always tell students to work dark to light, and there are many more darker areas here, but I just thought it'd be easy in this instance to just get our sky going. And of course if we're not happy with the colours, we can change them later. We're not going so thick with paint that we can't play around with these ideas and move colours and bring something up or take it back if we need to. That's a little bit powerful there. We can play around and get rid of that. And while I've got that, I'm just going to come down the side of there just to suggest a little bit of colour each side of that. And there is this beautiful red glow right into the bank, all the way down through there. I'm going to touch that in. A lovely corona around into the earth, as it were, as that sun is just pushing down its light coming down into there. Won't do too much with more of that in a minute, just suggesting it there so I don't suddenly go headlong in and lose that. Now then, you've seen, you're welcome to Judy. Oh, your nose, Wendy, has just grown about 4.5 feet. You watch it when you come through the door on Wednesday, won't you? Because you might bash your nose. I'd hate that to happen, but it's quite likely to. Just be aware. I could always get the door enlarged for you so you can get in. Alright, just bring that up there. And I'm cutting around the shape of my church before I carry on through to there. It's a little warm there. Now I'm trying, I don't need to leave those shapes. I could quite happily probably paint them back in, but it will start to look a little bit pale because I'm trying to put light, dark over light at that point. So I will probably just be happy to leave little areas out and just punch them in where I need them. Testing the water with colours. A little bit of magenta right in there. Let that come on up in the sky. A nice subtle little beautiful red, and that does give way to maybe a little less yellow and a little bit of cadmium red as that comes up. Take that in through there. Nice bit of glow. Wendy, can you imagine the size of the mask I'll have to wear? You better put in an order right now, else it won't be finished in time, Wendy. Didn't think of that. Good Lord. Right. Have I missed anybody that's in here? Oh, Glennis, I said good evening to you. I just saw you there. Good evening, Glennis. Don't worry about being late. The fact you're here is all that's needed. That's good. Thank you very much. Right. I'm going to try and make some of this paint move a little more across there. A little bit of white, a little bit of liquid in there. And the liquid I'm using at the moment, because I am working predominantly out of my studio here, is the fine detail liquid. Now this is a little point. When I left it in, this is an old ceramic pot. I have a lid somewhere. I think I have. I haven't seen it for years, but it's probably lost. But I just pour some into that. Now the first time I did that, it all dried up and skinned over and went awful. Had to pick most of it out. What I did is I've got a spare lid to one of my zestic pots, but yeah, jam jar lid, anything like that. Just let it sit over the top, creating a seal. And this has been sitting there about a week, and it's as good as the bit. As soon as I put it in there, it's as good as. So, just a worthwhile little thought to preserve things like your fine detail, if that's what indeed you're using. Now you'll see on the sky that there are little bits of blue or dirt, dark under painting. You know, the initial gesso covering that I put on, is some of it is popping through in places. Don't worry about that. It's actually not a bad thing, because it creates an unwitting harmony throughout the painting. People are drawn to it because there is this something that keeps appearing. The brain picks it up, even if they're not totally aware of it themselves. Now I'm just doing a quick blend in together. Going to put a little bit more yellow into this part here, a little stronger, a little bit more lemon as it comes right up to the corona of the sun itself. So this takes a bit of time just to get the blending really looking nice. And I say blending, loose blending. It's not absolutely, it's fine detail blending. It's just trying to get the areas of different colours just to form up together a little better. So I'm going to come in with some pure yellow, and I might reduce the size of my actual sun by bringing some of that into the sun and out from the sun, something like that. And then just going to go back in with the small dagger brush just to tease those areas together like that. It comes down into this area here. You can play around with this as much as you want to. I'm just trying to get somewhere where we can then move on to the next stage. But I just love playing around with these sunsets, sunrises, and seeing all the pretty different marks that you can make. And the thing is, you try to create the heat of the morning, the heat of that new light just appeared over the top of the area. I think that's not so bad. I think we've got a lovely glow going on with that. I'm not going to go there. Right, okay. So I'm going to come out of that, clean that brush off. Not too much. When I'm cleaning off, I want to make sure it's fairly dry, because I'm still dry brush up here, and if I go in too wet, I'll make a real pig's ear of what I've got up there. But I just want to colour up some of this a little more than I had it, and bring that across and give that a much more general coloration. Cooler as well. pick up some of that blue in there that I put in. Okay, now if you've got a fan brush, I haven't got, well, I got one but not one to hand. The one I've got is a big one I use for my colour pencil work, so yes, there you are. Anyway, alright, I'm just generally tapping the two areas together very, very gently, almost like a dry brush. And modelers such as John among us will know exactly what dry brushing is and what it's like, what it's all about. And I'm employing very much the same sort of idea that we would employ as a dry brush technique on some of our models, and just dragging it over. It's not glazing. Okay, there is a name for it and I absolutely confess I've forgotten it. Alright, now let's just check this side, and I think we're pretty good to go on that, and I'm going to leave that as is for the moment. I can always alter something, but I think we've got a nice glow, we've got a nice bit of sun, and we're going to carry on from there. You can do. I sort of, the thing about a bigger brush and a dry brush, Ben, is that it will pick off, it will take off more material than it blends. I noticed that years and years and years ago when I tried to blend, and I thought naturally let's get a very, very soft plump brush. It doesn't really work that well. It actually ends up taking, the bristles got to load themselves with brush before they deposit it. And if you work fairly thinly as I do, then you'll lose so much colour in places you just don't want to. So I just tend not to bother with that. I'm going to bring out a little bit more light under there. And we'll play around with that because a lot of these shapes are darker reds. Because the intensity of light at that point, it's not the blue-grey background, it's actually quite a reddish background of buildings. A bit more violet in there, a little bit, maybe a little bit more magenta going on. Like so, and then we can, that will very, very quickly turn to the blue, but not at this point. I'm going to tap in and a little bit on this side too. Like so. Play around with this and don't think that, you know, because you've done this and you can't change it. Of course you can change it. I'm going to come in with very much, there is a little bit of a, still a misalignment in my drawing. I think that really should have come down a bit more, but it's only a sun where the sun is actually rising, so I don't think people are going to pull too many strings at it and cause a problem. So just as long as there's nice little bits of information here that are representative of what is there, and I've made that rather too large, so I'm just going to come back in, try and blend those two areas together and take that building down just a jot. Made it a little too big. Now I think I possibly even made it a little too small. Certainly at the bottom of it. There you go. We'll see how that looks. And this is the nice thing about oils, isn't it? That you can just come in and change what you're doing and carry on and yeah, make a correction and move forward. So that's blended that in nicely. Just looking at the shape of the church before I go in. And let's put that church in. Key point, you can't get this view without all of this being in place. So let's put that in, and the shape of that comes off there and down through there. Quite a bit of red still in my brush, so I'm going to come back in and mix a little bit more blue into that, because it's a little bit of a false, and this is something else to bear in mind, that you are creating a bit of a false perspective in terms of aerial perspective, because it may be a little darker on the picture, but I want to create the sense of a lot more distance. I'm putting some more blue in. I'm going to put a tap of that green in as well. See how that looks, because that really does throw it back. I like that, that's good. Let's come this side with the same colour while it's in our brush, because here and here will be about the same. And it can change as it goes away. David, good evening to you, sir. Right, just going to blend a little bit more. Play around with some of these colours as that comes down to this area here. And it does get a little lighter, because in the morning there's, as I said, this is all marshland, and if you stood up you'd see vapours from the night before, little mists coming off of the little eddies and tributaries of the side of the hills. They rise up and they give way, and you get this beautiful lighter area to the bottom of anything that you're creating at this point. Just worth noting, and you can see it here, and it also helps divide the areas up. I think you'll find. I'm going to bring that there, and there's a definite light in there. Just a small section to, yeah, I want to come back in with some dark in there. I'm sort of stumbling a little bit then, just wondered where I wanted to go with that colour. I'm just going to come over, and any mismatch of shape on the top here can be changed later on. It's not finished with yet. We will assess everything and see what needs to be altered before we finish up. So I think the value of that needs to come down a bit more. So I'm going to get a little bit of green, a little bit of blue, and I'm going to come in with a bit of that red to that. Kill that green and that blue out with some dirty old red, which makes a really dirty dark grey at this point. Bring that nicely into the sun, and then it can come away. It's quite dark there. There's a good reason for that being dark. It's going to get quite red as well. I'm going to put that in. There's a bit of a glow off the sun at that point. I think we'll look at that in a minute. I think there's a bit of this hill coming through. I think this glow comes through to here. That's what I'm not picking up on. Well, not straight away. There's a bit of an orange glow, a little bit of nice shape to that there, and then it gives way to a darkness of this hill coming up through here, which we can utilize. Not a problem. Well done, Wendy Scumbling. Thank you. I'm going to put some brown with our blue. Now, some umber. I'm going to take this shape out through here. This is our next hill. So I'm going to use some of the umber. I'm going to put a bit of green to that too. And a little bit of ultramarine, a bit more of the green. Don't try and mix one bit of green into the whole of your browns, because you'll be wasting a lot of paint. Just come in and take that way up over the top like so, and try and show all the little areas. Now you can see that's picking up a bit of that light paint, so it's turning a bit milky, and that's something you've got to be aware of. Take that off over there and take that all the way down through here. And it gets quite a bit redder, of course, as it comes down this area here, but a very dark reddish colour. And you can hardly see where it starts and stops. You just know it's there. We've got a lot of darks and reds in here from the edge of this other riverbank. But we have got to come in with a bit of a lighter colour through here, separating. Now I did make that straight, so I'm going to make sure we keep that as a straight, pretty much a straight bank. So I'm bringing that lighter vapor light coming into this secondary set of hills. So I'm going to bring that into there and let it dissipate and disappear. I don't know how much time we're doing. I'm hoping that we get this done tonight, but it may be that it has to go on. Never know when you start a project if it's going to be done in one setting or whether it's going to have to be carried on following the week. Just try and look at some of the bits of information up there. Tonally, I've got it a little bit wide apart. I might come back in and put some blues and some of these colours back into here just to bring the values a little closer together. I got a little bit carried away with the light going in there on the vapours. Take that down and away. Okay. Couple of little tree structures, mounds of trees up there, and then it suddenly just drops. I think I'll do it like that anyway. I think it's about good enough. Check in my colour of my church a bit more. Just changing one or two marks. Make sure I'm happy with the way it's going in that direction. You can easily lose your way by not paying attention for a few minutes. Okay, I think that is probably a little better in terms of I'm squinting down as I'm doing that and just checking that the values are a little closer to where they should be at this point along here. There is the vapor rising, of course there is, but it's not as distinctly different as I actually first portrayed it. I think we can get away with that. Alright, let's take the whole of this hillside over to its conclusion on this side. And again, there is still a vapor rising. I'm going straight through my two posts. I hopefully can pick them up later. Going around that vessel, and it does get a little darker in here. And that has got a little bit too light. So I was a little bit careless again with this area. It gets quite dark in here. And obviously because it's becoming more and more silhouetted. So again, I'm just going to come in here, change the value. Bit more green, bit more blue, and this time some magenta and a little bit of touch of umber as that comes into this area here. I think you see it and you change it and then you think, oh really, that's not right, but I think we'll be okay. Take that into that area and down to that boat. Just blend the two areas together and look for any sort of headland or top of hill structures that are sort of requires, or you know, they are required, they're part of the drawing, as it were. I'm just going to come in here. There's going to be some more red got to come in here, I know that, but immediately I think we're going to take that bank through very, very dark. It's very easy to get carried away with what you think should go in there and realise that it's either too much, too dark, or it's not dark enough as I had on the other side. So I'm just going to come in and leave those two little bits there, and that indicates to me where those two posts are. So I'm going to leave them in place. Then I'm just going to take this all the way through here. It can get a little pale, a little bluer down in here. So I'm going to touch that with a tap of white into there, just ever so slightly. let that come down and away. Something like that. Hopefully that's about right. Just check my area. There's lots of little trees and shapes on the top of the hills as it comes away and up. Something like that. Okay, now I do need to put a little bit of haze right in through the bottom here. Again, I hope I don't overcook it. I've lost one of my stump positions, but not a problem. We put that in. Just wanted to see where that vapor is. It is evident. Just a gentle caressing of the colours just to bring them together, like so. Now I need to look at this sun. It's a little clumsy, so I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to come in with a bit of red and try and enhance this glow into the background. Just a little line of colour, just fingers coming off of it. Ever so subtly, you can hardly see them. And you may not even see them on your screen as I can see them in my photo. But they are there. And then we'll have a bit more of a transition into the sun itself, I think. Use pure colours as opposed to lots of white if something like this. Lots of very fine taps. I'm really barely touching the colours, just gently teasing them into where I want them to be. That's the aim. Maybe a little bit more light off of here. Okay, we'll see what that looks like in a minute. Just going to come in with some magenta in here on this area here, and that comes all the way through there. As that takes that up, it's not as dark as that, and I've got to be careful I don't overdo it because I need a lot of this dark in the bank, and this is not the bank, this is the hill rising up that's behind this bank, so I need to bring this up a little higher too, which I think it's too shallow, so I'm going to bring that up another step or two into that blue background like that. As I say, you make changes as you go on with your painting. And that's what this is. It's looking at it and deciding that the hill needs to be brought up a little higher. Like that. Okay. So this is actually a lot slower, this painting, than I had anticipated. So I think the way it's going is going to be a two-parter. If you're not happy about that, please say so, because it's not a problem. I can just finish this off myself tomorrow. But if you want to see the whole of it, then let me know and we will crack on once it's dried up next week. I'm going to put in a lot of red into this. There's quite a bit of green. I want a real strong dark accent all the way up here on this top of this mound, on this river bank, like so, taking it all the way down through there. A little bit too high there, take some of that off. Make that come down a little tap there, that's not so bad. Not too worried about the smudging either, to be quite honest with you. Can't remember exactly where my posts were. I think there's one there, definitely. I'm going to put a little tap in there and a little tap in, I think, somewhere like that, just to suggest where they're going to be. Then we've got a bit of foliage and stuff going on up on top of the bank, and certainly between this one, and then we've got that boat, which I think now, looking at that boat, you know, is a little too big. So I'm going to chop him down, make him a lot smaller, like so. Don't see too much of it, to be quite honest with you. Okay, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to come up the other side here with this bank like so, and then that comes down in that sharp drop to the water's edge, and then we've got the rest of the bank coming on this side here, almost let's continue on in sight line on top of it here, but then just it sort of starts out from there, and it's going to get a lot redder very, very quickly, because it's being influenced by that lovely sun. So I'm going to bring it to about there, I think is where it should be, and then drop that to there. Might take a bit of playing around with, and so there's a really heavy influence of red. So, and then we've got a very strong red influence of the cadmium red and the magenta with the bank. Now I've got to try and visualize this. I'm just going to, I've just absolutely lost the picture. Oh no, don't do this to me. Right, there you are. Right, let's just bring that way out so I can see a little bit more detail on my side. And see if we can't bring that line through there. That's where that other bank is coming through, something like that. And it's quite dark, but red influence, hugely red influence through there, like so. And there are some massive dark structures. Well, I say massive dark structures, they're not massive dark at all. They are edges of where boats are sitting, and boats are moored up, tied up, like so. Bring that down through there, and let that just sit there for a little while, because there is a little bit of cool light. Now this is where there is mud exposed, but it's not, for some reason, influenced by the sun, not immediately. There's a bit of pink to it, but it's not as warm as the rest of it, and it's just a bit of mud bank up that other side there, just showing through. I don't know if I've done it justice enough yet. I come back in, bit of white, make it a little pinker, a little lighter than I had it. Just come back in with the tip of the dagger brush and lay that in, and that's fine. You can then define the edge of this bank here by bringing it down like so. Take out the excess, come back in with the edge of this bank now, bring that up to there and bring that down to the water like so. Now we've got that part done, but that even this bank here needs to be extremely red influence. I'll bring that up because it's all influenced by that bright sun at that point. Okay, and then we can come in with all these beautiful lights of that glare of sun. Like so, and down this side, and then it just sort of comes on down through here, doesn't it, which we will work on later on. Hey Ben, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we can. You may have to. I mean, we're not going to get it all done tonight anyway. I hope to get it done. I thought it was a lot simpler than I started, but hopefully we will carry it on. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take a consensus of that, sir. I'm quite happy to do it again next week, as long as people are not bored with that. I don't want to put people to sleep or put people off joining the streams. So it's a tough one. Do you carry it on, or do you just get onto a new subject and finish it off? I mean, apparently you guys are all very supportive and like seeing the finished product, so chances are it'll have to be a two-parter. Put a bit of white into that now. Just bring that out. And make that stronger later. And indeed, if we are two-parting this, then I can always influence that white centres on both the sun and this next week. It wouldn't be too much of a problem to do that. But we might even get it to a point where we don't really need to worry about next week. We can just get it done tonight and that'll be it. Not the painting, just this section. Okay, I'm just going to do that like that for the moment. Just going to come in and just play around with the centre of this sun. Okay. It's not as big a sun as the photo suggests. There's a lot of corona around the one, but I think we need this big orb, and I think we've managed, or I've managed to recreate that at the moment. I'm quite happy with the way that is. A lot of reds on here, and I'm still trying to battle with how red I make something, how really rich I make it, and how dark you make it. It's trying to get that balance. But so far so good. A lot of these are actually vessels up in here that I'm drawing or painting right now. I think these are sort of dark shapes to some yachts that are up there, but they're red influenced. There's so much powerful light up there that you can't see where one boat is and another is, and all that information is just lost, and it gets brought down into these darks in here, and the whole thing becomes one big mass of shape and not necessarily a boat. Now I'm going to take that dark through here while we're at it. Coming in with some blue, some ultramarine blue. I'm going to use with that some oxide of red, which is a very powerful dark compared, not when you've got white in your brush. That doesn't help one bit. So clean my brush properly would be good. And let's do that mix again. Bit of brown, bit of red, and maybe either you can use that blue, or you can use some phthalo blue, which I've just put in, and you can tap some red to that too, if you wish to. I'm just going to make this dark. This is my bank on the other side of the quay, like so, and it is fairly flat. Now I've given this area a little bit more room. Had I been a bit clever, I would have probably set everything over about another ½ inch or so, but I didn't, and that's fine. It's still off center, but only just. At the end of the day, I wish I'd just paid a bit more attention and made that a little bit more off center, but hey ho, we learn. It isn't central, there's center, so we're just on the right side of it. Enough to get away with it, I think. Just gonna mess up what we see at this point. Little bits of top grasses and shrubs and bits and pieces along the top of that bank. Just to mess that up. We're on a straight line. It's not a straight line. Take some of that down through there. Pick up some of that red that's in there. Mix the two together. Make a lovely blend. And we can start playing around with some of these darks in here. And we're not going to try and suggest boat shapes. Not at this point. We've got our boats, which are pretty much rubbed out now. But we've got our boats, and we've got some lovely reflections in some of the water that's coming out from there. Okay, let's just pay a bit of attention to this side. Again, got it very, very warm. So we're going to use that. And we mustn't forget lovely bits of reflections in there too. Very important. Even up here you got a little sense of reflections. Not much of one at that point, but there are some bits there. It becomes more evident down through here. We can put a little bit in there. Not that much. Come up with our dark top. You can just see a bit of a shape. It's not much different to the rest of it, but there is just enough to suggest that there is a bit of a bank here. And some of these banks are got cuttings that go in, and others are merely just shapes that create the edge. Turn that through there. Every time you see something, you just want to change it again. I just want to put a bit more red into there, having seen that. And probably by the time next week comes, I want to do something else, but it won't until next week. I won't do it before. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and turn the brush upside down just for a second to get me a straight edge through there that I can play around with. Like that. And then look at this big old shape through here. A little bit of red influence right on the edge of it. Not too much. And then we've got the coming down into the water at this point like so. And that we will finish off another time. That will just give me an influence there. And take the picture back out. And see where we're going to take this back. Now this to me is the worst part of it, because and it would have made it worse had I done what I suggested and moved the picture over some degrees. And I'm glad I didn't from that point of view, because there's so little information in here that it's hard to see what you'll be painting and what you're going to put in to make it work. So I'm making a collection of umbers, violets and greens that are influenced by red, so they become dark greys. And I'm just going to put in a little bit of grassy stuff at the top just to break up the edge, as we did down here and over here, like so. I think that works. And this will be a basic influence, but we may have to tweak some of the colours next time to make that work even better. I need to take a look at some of the more daylight pictures of this scene. Just refresh my memory, because I can see sort of lumps coming down into the mud of grasses and stuff. So there's red, some green influences that I am putting in, and I'm not sure how much of that I should do. There's also a big dark influence around the base, so let's get that in. Like so. a lot more brown, a lot more red, umber, very strong warmth in that colour, which I haven't put in. Back down with that, and that's going to be water reflection of the mud. And one or two areas that go into that mud come down like so. I'm drawing the the chisel brush, the dagger brush. I'm just dragging it down on its straight edge to give me some of those marks like that. And I'm just going to play around with that, because there's actually, when you look closer still, you've got this lovely orange corona around the edge. Now, a lot of times when you see something that's really brightly and strongly coloured, you get this sort of afterglow of colours. And I don't know, there must be a very technical name for it. I couldn't even begin to think what that is. And I'm not going to try and tell you what it might be. And just know that when you sort of see things, you get this almost like an afterglow around it. And I've often spouted on about it in classes. But if it's not exact at the moment, then maybe further in it will become obvious what it should be, and if it needs changing, change it then. I'm going to come in here with some dark down here to change that. Something like that. Okay. Yes, I could cut the end off the board. I don't want to do that, Ben. No, if I can help it. I think we'll make it work. I think it's just going to be a mass of colours that will dictate what happens. I think it will work. But what I wanted to show you also was how I was going to make the mud. A little bit of red, and that way a little bit of magenta, which is more violet. A little bit of green into that to kill the violet back a little bit. And I'm going to come in with this nice cool colour, like so, and that will be the mud that is not being affected by the strong warm light, but this is the mud that's exposed on the flats. There's a lot more up this side, but you're not going to see too much of that, and that will come down to the water's edge, and when I put the lights to that, you'll see a nice crisp edge to that. And bring that down to about there. Start suggesting the edge of the water at that point, and then that will suddenly start getting influenced like that with the reds. So you're going to lose that at that point. Then you brush if you go back in, because you've got that red on it, and if you want to come around here, which I do, continue that on. It's out of the shot, but I know it's there. So I know the way this paint goes round the corner. I've done many paintings of this place over the time, and yeah, it's just a great place. I'll put a bit more light into this, just here. Like so. And it's darker on this side. We're going to leave that and actually just put a bit of dark in there. Bit of blue, bit of umber. Just bring that in and darken that down. It goes into a bit of shade. As that rounds the edge of the water, joining up with that part there, and just carries on down through like so. Okay, now then, while I've got most of, or quite a few of my patrons watching tonight, and those of you who are not might like to know about things. But we're going into lockdown, as you know, on Thursday, so my normal classes will not be happening. They will happen this Wednesday, and then I won't see a lot of you, well, I won't see any of you for a month, and then hopefully we'll get the last few that you'll be owed for this term in on the end of the before Christmas. A couple that'll be left will be before Christmas, and so hopefully that's how it will turn out. But just to let you know that the Patreon is going, and there is a slightly more expensive tier for those who wish to get involved and want to stay in touch during this month of lockdown. With Patreon you have your tiers, and you know that being maybe a $5 tier or a $10 tier, you can change it from 1 month. You can go up, you can go back down again, and several of you were using the $25 tier to have 2 Zoom meetings with me each month, so that you could happily work on paintings and still have interaction with me moving forward. So it worked during lockdown, and it will be open again this month. So if any of you want those Zoom meetings, you just need to up your tier level for the month and drop it back down next month if that's the way you want to do it, happily. And that way I can help you out with work that you're carrying on with and working upon. And any of you who are watching who are not patrons and want to have that sort of contact with me, certainly during this lockdown period, then you have indeed the ability to just join and become a patron, and love to have you on board. Right, where are we time wise? Okay, we will carry on a bit longer, but we're almost there and we're nowhere there. It's one of those. It might be that next week that I get more done a lot more quickly, and we can then maybe start on something at the time a little bit different. I keep looking at this and I think that my son, or something's got to move. I'm beginning to think that this wants to come over. I'm sure it does. So I'm just going to gently nudge that to there. I may have to clean up the center later, but I feel that we've lost a little bit of light in the middle of it. That's not a problem. And I can come back down this side in here and make that. I think that's probably a little better now. A little redder up in here. Red coming around these shapes in here, and as I said before, around that bank there, and then we come out from there and we come very quickly into a pinky warm colour. I did think about doing a portrait of Mr. Trump tonight instead of this, but I thought that maybe this might win the day. Didn't want to get political. Yeah, I will. I think that's what's going to happen, Teresa. We'll probably, if everyone's okay with that, we'll do a completion of this next week. Right, just bring that line down there. And bring that into there, slightly warmer. Picked up a bit of dirt, could have done without doing that. Just come back in cleanly. A little bit more yellow, a little bit on lemon as well at this point. And the lemon and the dark cab will make a medium medium cad yellow basically. Take that influence there. Okay, now then that is broken off there and comes down there. That will come all the way through here and we'll start to pink up and get a little, like the sky did up here, this comes away a little bit more. And is a little red around here. I'm going to put that in so that it shows up those lights. Coming through there as well. We're going to drag some through, then that comes what gives way to a bit more blue colour, something like that. This line here you'll see from here out, and I'm just going to draw it in a bit of dirty blue colour just to draw it in. There's a line through here like something like that coming across into there. Now what that is the tidal flow. That is it's either some of the mud starting to show because it banks up in different places, and either that or it's debris that's coming in on the tide or taken out on the tide. I'm not sure if it's coming in or going out at this point. But that is what that line is there. You can see it there, and then across here there is this bluer colour, which I'm just going to indicate here like that, just scratching it in. That bluer colour is going to be made up with some phthalocyanine blue. You could quite use cyan, which is the same. You could even possibly get away with a little bit of Prussian blue, but I would probably go with phthalocyanine blue, phthalo blue as a general idea, and that will work quite nicely. I want to take some of this red across, and I think that will probably be pretty much what we're going to be doing this evening. So I'm just going to take that into there, and I've got a boat, nice warm colours going on in here, and they're going to get dirtier as they come into the bank. So just going to bring that through top of the water there, and I want this warmth because I want behind it to be quite cool in places. I'll take that down to the water, quite warm. Not that warm though, I don't think, it's a bit too much. So I'm going to take some blue into that, drop that back a little bit, like so. Let's say next week's another week, and we can actually, I'll have had time to look at this in that time period and make some definite decisions. Now what I will do before we finish is I'm just going to put in the side of this yacht that's sitting there, so that will set up for next week. Like so. Now I'm just going to come in on the picture a bit more. That's it, just to get that shape again. I actually didn't have it quite right before, so I'm going to just make sure that this time I'm a little bit clearer on what I've got. And I'm not putting any refinements into it, I'm just taking the general shape and coming back out like that with a reflection like so, and just gently draw that through, and we can refine any of this next week. Okay, and this one, which I deliberately, as you know, made this bigger for the purposes of the picture and nothing more. And leave the open side of the boat so we can see that that is the return section. Just put a bit of dark in there. Just leave a little bit of light on the top, which gives the edge to that side. Don't need to worry about it anymore. Come down. Pointy end of the dagger being used. Just rough in that dark shape. and take the bottom of the boat down to the water line and then bring that back out, and then we've got that lovely little shape of the reflection. And once again we can just rough that through, because we can play around with the edge of that next week like so. And by doing that, you can see I haven't followed the line of that like that. I've come in and I've scratched, because what's going to happen is some of that will disappear to red paint and some of it will become more reflection, but what it's doing is it's suggesting the shape or the movement of water. So that will do that quite nicely, and we'll leave that at that point. Now I've actually lost 2 or 3 boats in here. I'm going to have to leave them, I think, until next week, and that'll be dry, and I'll just will paint those back in. So I completely missed those, didn't I? Never mind. Okay. Alright, and one last thing before I finish, that is, apart from losing the picture, that is, let's just set this boy up, and let's just put this in. It's a dark piece. It will be dry for next week. It's not a worry even if I didn't do it this week, but it's just there, and we can get rid of that out of the way, and we won't have to worry about messing up any of our beautiful light colours next week. Like so. A little bit of water flowing. Now that's just told me, I think, just coming on that a bit. No, it's not conclusive even from that, but there's a little bit of ebb and flow around the edge of this, and let's just put in some marks for what will be the reflection of that. But yeah, I thought I could sort of suggest that the tide was going out or in, but I can't quite make it out from there because this has got eddy this side too, so I'm none the wiser really. Never mind, we will carry this on. There we go. Alright, so we've made a very, very good start, a very positive start. I've just dropped a wet paintbrush all over the floor, doesn't help. Yeah, we've got quite a bit to go. We've set the groundwork up. It may be that I make some adjustments in some of this anyway next week, but I'm quite happy with the way it looks right now. Well, I tell you, I've got to say, I watched that spitting image, Judy, and I agree with the follow-up press comments on it that the jokes were as lame as they could possibly be. It's certainly not a patch on the spitting image of the 80s. It's something, nothing like it. I was quite disappointed. I waited up to watch that, and I actually went to bed thinking, I wish I'd have gone to bed half hour earlier. That's how I felt about it. It's a big shame. I think they missed some very good points they could have made. And yeah, anyway, there you go. That's my take on that one. And a lot of them also, if you are a fan of spitting image, which I was watching, is that a lot of those particular clips that you saw on that half hour on the TV were actually already being aired on Facebook, on Instagram. And you follow on Instagram, and they were all over Instagram. So hey ho, there you go. That's the way it is. Could you always cut the end of the rod? No, I saw that one. Will be great. Yeah, that's fine. Definitely yes. I didn't know you did cartoons, Paul. Are we talking about Mr. Trump? That is one cartoon. Yeah. Well, like I said, this beat out Trump, so hopefully that'll happen tomorrow as well. Cheers on that. I love that, John. Thanks ever so much, mate. So anyway, enough for tonight. We're not quite at 2 hours. You're going to get a little reprieve, but I don't want to take this down any further really. I could do, but I don't see the point in really pushing on it. and I want to look at some of these values up in the top here between now and next week. I may have to tweak a couple of them, but working on wet paint now will be a little bit more difficult, so we can look at that next week and make some judgments on that. But yeah. Well, I think looking at what you just said, Teresa, I mean, Ben is a very, very good call. He's, as I say, extremely knowledgeable, and we'll get to the point of sorting it out for you, I'm sure. But I hope you do. I hope you get that organised, because there's nothing more frustrating than not. So anyway, class on Wednesday for those students of you who will be there. It is as normal this Wednesday, of course, but that will be it until the week of the 2nd of December, assuming that they allow us to go back to a little bit of normality just before Christmas. The remaining outstanding classes will be rolled over to that time, and if not completed by Christmas, rolled on to the next term. So anyone who's paid money for the term, remaining classes will not be missed out in the lockdown. And I know, Judy, you've missed some classes, but the ones that you're missing now, you will not be missing, if that makes any sense. So everyone's just getting rolled over as of the end of this week. Right, okay. So there you go, people. We've made a valiant start to Morston Quay, looking towards a sunrise over Blakeney. Hope you enjoyed it. That's all right, Glennis. I hope you are. That'd be great. Glad to have you on board. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next week. Patrons, don't forget, Friday as usual, you will have a stream. I think it might be a bit of a snowy theme. I don't know. I know that David requested some snow, so I might combine a little bit of snow into something. Oil or watercolour. I think you had an oil last week, so I'll probably make it a watercolour this week and go from there. Great one. That's cool. It's just a nice way to go with it. So yeah, cheers, Derek. I appreciate that. I'm going to have a glug or two, and I'll leave this chat open for a little longer, and for another few minutes, and everyone can say their goodbyes. And don't forget, Friday there will be a normal video out. This week I still haven't had a clue what I'm going to do. I wanted to do a watercolour, but if I get a chance to do it. Ben, thank you very much. Hope to see you next Monday. Yeah, I wish I could see you on Wednesday, but it's as Wendy said to you, as I said the opposite. I know I did. It was probably wrong of me to do that, but it's the right thing to do, what you've done, and we'll all be back together in the fullness of time, I'm sure. So let's just hope that that is not too long. John, no, I feel a bit guilty now. I I have your STL files, mate, and I need to get Chitu Box installed, and then I can use that to slice up the prints and get them going. I didn't realise that. I thought I could just crack on and do it, but there's a lot more involved on that side of thing, which I'm not been fully aware of. So yeah, it is what it is, and I will get there in the end, mate, and yours will be the first ones. I want to do that this week, actually, John, to be quite honest with you. So I'll probably send you off a little, ping you off a little email, say yay, or no, whatever. Ben, cheerio, take care. Keith, Have a lovely one, mate. Take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday. It's not a sunset, Keith. You've not been listening, lad. It's a sunrise. I just can't help yourself, can you? I might bar Keith on Wednesday if he keeps coming up with that. He's just not listening. Anyway, enough of all that rubbish. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Yeah, you're telling me it takes time, John. But you're right, I will get there, mate. And I can't wait to. Once I understand it, I can't wait because I can do so much more. Sorry, I'm scratching around. Something sort of deposited itself all over my top here on this table. Just seeing if the zestic would move it, and it's not. Anyway, there you go. All the best, guys. Stay safe. Be happy. Keep painting. Keep creating. By knowing which way's east and which way's west, mate. Cheers, John. Take care, mate.